Okay, everyone. Welcome to Paul's classroom, room 116, in session today. Some of you people think I'm like against Trump and all this stuff. I'm really not. I voted for him 3 times. Okay, I'm an American. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. So let's get that out of the way, okay? And there's reasons why I have to remain vague on some of the posts that I make. And some of you guys need to read between the lines why that is, okay? And I just want to come to you with some things to make you think, okay? I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to convince you to think a certain way. I'm not, trying to convince you to vote a certain way or whatever. I'm just here to show you the information that I know, okay? And it doesn't come from a position of opinion. It's a position of having a front row seat to some of these things. And the people that know me know what I'm talking about a little bit, okay? Let me just hit you on these tariffs. A couple days ago, we talked about the auto industry and planned obsolescence with the government. Basically conspires with the auto manufacturers to make disposable cars. That was a few days ago. Some of you guys might already know all that, but maybe some of you guys don't. So that's why I make these videos, okay? And again, nobody has to watch them, right? So before anyone leaves rude comments, just try to think about what I said in the last minute and a half here, okay? But let me just talk to you about these tariffs, okay? Tariffs work if your country is a strong country and you are an economic powerhouse. The United States is no longer that economic powerhouse it once was, regardless of the narrative that you've been fed, okay? The war in the Ukraine, does anyone ever wonder why it never ends? Does anyone know why it never ends? Or do we just have this false sense of perception that, there's a lot more to it than people know. And Trump could do this, but he doesn't want to. It's 3D chess and all. Listen, the reason why the war never ends is, number one, people don't want it to end because there's too much money involved. We all know that, okay? But the main reason that this administration thought the war was going to end is because we were going to cut off his oil. And, if we could get NATO and the West to not, buy into this oil in his country's reserves, they thought that was going to cripple Putin and it would end the war. Well, guess what happened? Yeah, NATO might have said fuck you to his oil, and the United States may have said that, and some other countries, and the West or whatever. So Putin was like, okay, well, I'll just sell this shit to China and India. We don't need the United States. So that's what happened, okay, among a couple other things. So do you ever wonder why this war's not ending? Well, I just told you why. There was 2 main reasons, and I just told you that, okay? All right, so in order to be in a position or have hand to change things, you have to have power. You have to be in a global position to make things happen. We're not in that position anymore as a country. We're on the precipice of major collapse. Whether you guys think so or not, we are. All right. But that's the reason. That's the main reason. Think about it, right? Putin doesn't need us, right? So he sold to China and India, and everything's okay. So the plan that we thought was going to work didn't work. We didn't hold all the cards we thought we did, right? You have to actually have the cards, not just pretend that you have them, okay? Let me just hit you on this tariff stuff really quick. In theory, it sounds great. But once again, you have to be an economic powerhouse. You have to have global respect and positioning to make tariffs work. There's a few reasons why these tariffs are going to be very hard to pull off and to be effective economically, and I'll explain that to you, okay? This isn't because I don't like Trump or I love Trump, or this has nothing to do with that. This is just common sense, okay? Okay. The first problem with the tariffs is this. He changed his mind almost daily, sometimes twice a day, on what he's going to tariff, what he's not going to tariff. What that brings is instability into the corporate world. No corporation is going to move their business from outside the United States to the United States if they don't know what the tariffs are going to be. So this brings a huge destabilizing factor into the corporate sector. In other words, if you own a big company, or whatever. You're not going to make major infrastructure changes, and you're not going to spend millions and billions of dollars changing your company's portfolios, its logistics, if you don't know what the tariffs are. So right there, you're by Trump not sticking to what he says all the time and changing almost daily what his tariffs are. That's not going to change the way the corporate sector looks at this, because we don't know what the tariffs are going to be. The other thing is this: each country, right, that we're going to tariff or not tariff, or tariff 1%, 2%, whatever it is. Each of these countries has an individual set of economic variables. Their agricultures, their raw minerals, their agriculture, everything's different. Their economic standing, it's no countries are the same. So what I'm trying to say is nobody knows what these tariffs are really going to do, if they get imposed, and if they don't, okay? Because there's so many variables with each country, okay? And again, we're not bargaining from a position of power like we used to, like 30, 40, 50 years ago. And other countries already know this. So that's why they're able to like retaliate on this stuff, okay? So if you're going to make tariffs work, you have to be a global powerhouse. You have to make sure other countries can't align against you and make deals against you to make your tariffs or your posturing seem ridiculous and weak, right? We're not the country we once were, okay? So, if you're going to talk strong on tariffs, you need to actually either do it or you don't do it. You don't change your mind on it. But if you're going to do these tariffs, also know and don't be disillusioned that you're going to impose these tariffs from a position of weakness, not strength anymore. So, you got all these factors floating around, like I outlined, okay? And, we thought we were going to bring Russia to its knees economically by him not being able to sell his oil. And what did he do? He's, like I told you, he went to India and China. So guess what? That blew up in our face, right? Not to mention all the side deals that were made, right? So that's what I wanted to tell you about the tariffs, They can work, and it's a good idea, but you have to have the right things in place to make that work, okay? Right now, it's a bullying tactic, basically, because our country is sinking, okay? So if we can extract money from other countries at gunpoint, basically, well, that's what we have to do to survive. But I don't think it's going to work. I think this is going to blow up. Anyway, that's all I wanted to hit you with today with these tariffs, okay? I've been under the weather for a few weeks, so I'm battling a cold or whatever. So, if my sentences are kind of, disjointed, or I seem like I'm all over the place, that has a lot to do with it, okay? But again, if you're going to institute these tariffs, you got to either do it or you don't, okay? You got to stick with it or don't do it. But you also have to bargain from a position of strength. We're not that global powerhouse anymore, international powerhouse. We're just not. I would like to tell you different, but we're not. China owns us basically in a lot of different areas, a lot of areas that people don't even know about. And the other thing that a lot of people might not know is the Pacific Rim. A lot of these Asian countries are uniting because they're starting to see the bullshit for what it is. So if we have the Pacific Rim that doesn't need us, and all we have is NATO left, I mean, we have to really be realistic, I mean, if you're an older lion and, you're living in your last few years, you really shouldn't run into a pack of young lions. That's where we're at here with this stuff, So, I'm just trying to give you guys something to think about, right? I voted for Trump 3 times. I am not a liberal, okay? I don't like their narrative either. Some of the things Trump does, I like. A lot of it, some of it I don't like. So I'm not going to sit here blindly and tell you things are great when they're not, So, people can get mad and throw stones at me. Oh, why did you jump ship? I didn't jump ship. The Republican Party jumped ship on me a long time ago. And my We the People page, it was never about left or right, red or blue, Republican or Democrat. My We the People page has always been about the Constitution. Okay? So if anyone is saying that, jumping ship, I'm not jumping ship. You have to be realistic, and you have to call it like it is, not how you want it to be, okay? All right, and I can expand more on this, but I won't. I think you get the point of what I'm saying. And as they say, you don't have to believe me, but it's in black and white, this time red as well, okay? So this isn't my opinion. This is reality, what I'm telling you, okay? Peace out.